All right. So 7 ways that sales reps can either make a mistake and give a bad experience to the homeowner, or alternatively act in bad faith and take advantage of the homeowner. A lot of these you're going to see are very similar to roofing. I'm going to make a lot of roofing analogies with it, just because all of you guys come from roofing and it'll be easier to understand. All right. 1 second. Let me get this plugged in. Okay, sweet. All right. So the first way you can either make a mistake or take advantage of a homeowner is to oversize the system. Okay. And so what this means is, and how it kind of happens on the back end is, let's say the homeowner only has a $200 electricity bill, or maybe they don't even know what their electricity bill is. They just give you the electricity bill. And typically what you're going to do to build a solar proposal is you're going to enter that information into the solar proposal software, and then it spits out a system attempting usually to give about a 100% offset, depending on where you're at. Well, what some people will do, either by mistake, they don't know how to read an electricity bill, or by malice, they will inflate that electricity bill and oversize the system. So those, the homeowner's only using $200 every single month. When you put it into your system, you put it in at 300, whether it's, an accident or on purpose. Then what happens is you oversize the system, meaning the homeowner doesn't save money anymore. And now the reason that, obviously a sales rep would do this on the bad side is it would be a higher commission. And so one of the best ways to make sure that this doesn't happen, and what we require with all of our solar systems, and what I've always required as long as I've sold solar, is that every deal has to, when they submit it into the company or whatever your intake process is, they have to submit the electricity bill as well. A lot of lenders are now actually requiring this also, to make sure that homeowners aren't being taken advantage of. So just making it such that they have to submit the electricity bill as well. It usually takes about 5 minutes to just do a quick logic check on it, just kind of check some things out. Another good kind of rule of thumb is that 10% of square footage, very rarely is an electricity bill going to be higher than 10% of square footage. So if they have a 3,000 square foot home, their average monthly bill will probably not be higher than $300 a month. And that, I say probably, there's always, they have 3 hot tubs, they got a workshop, and they're a master welder, they, whatever the case may be, there's always caveats. But in most cases, a normal family home, it should be less than 10% of square footage. And now if it's a newer home, usually that number starts dropping into 7 to 8% because you have better insulation, and just better building envelope as a whole. But that's one quick way you can check, the square footage of the home versus the electricity bill. This is also useful if you're gonna if the homeowner just moved in. So if a homeowner just moved into their home, brand new, hey, I don't even have an electricity bill. Okay, you got a 2,500 square foot home. Your bill on average is probably going to be about $250 or less. What I recommend, I think it's a very powerful sales thought process, is if it's a new homeowner, I always tell them, let's just take a little bit smaller than that. Let's just pretend it's 200, because the reason is that I can always come back and add more panels. So let's say I sold you a 25 panel system and you start using more electricity. We can come back and add 5 more panels. No problem. I'll gladly come back and sell you another system. But I can't come back and take off panels. So it's always better to go a little bit smaller and then grow from there if it's a new homeowner. And new homeowners really love that, because they're like, wow, you could have sold me, a massive system, but you did what's best for me. And every time I've done that approach, it's always resulted in a close. So, 10% of square footage, and then downsize it a little bit, and explain to them why. Okay. The next way, alternatively, how you can take advantage of or make a mistake with a homeowner is undersize the system or overpromise. And so what that would look like is, let's say you have their bills and, they know they have a $200 a month average. They know that in their mind, it's $200 a month. They've calculated it out. Last year, they paid $2,400 in electricity, which means they paid $200 a month. Okay. Well, when your rep or you, if you don't know what you're doing, if you're putting it in, when you input the electricity bill into the system, let's say you make a mistake and you only put in 150 a month, because usually what you're entering in is kilowatt hours. You're entering in the actual physical electricity, not necessarily the dollar amount. So if you make a mistake and you enter it in as if they're only using $150 every month, when you go sell them that system, you're going to say, hey, Mr. Homeowner, I designed a system to take care of all of your electricity. Well, you designed a system for $150 a month and they're using $200 a month. Guess what happens once you put that system on the roof? Well, it doesn't take care of all of their electricity. And so if you're saying, hey, I can get you into this system for X amount of dollars a month and your bill is going to go to, basically nothing, just the collection or just the connection fee, well, then they're going to have a bad experience when that doesn't happen, because they're going to feel taken advantage of, because now the system doesn't fully offset their electricity bill. And they thought they were purchasing something that fully offset their electricity bill. So when you do check that electricity bill against the solar system, or your internal system does check it, and we'll talk about at the end of how to kind of set some of these processes up. You'll check both, is the system oversized or is the system undersized? Kind of an analogy with this, is if you were happening to talk to a homeowner, and they were maybe a contractor in the past, and they say, hey, I want my roof at 400 a square. That's what I think is fair. Okay, great. If you told the homeowner, hey, you have a 40 square roof, and they really had a 30 square roof, obviously you're going to be selling that roof, overpriced, and for what they thought they were getting. Same kind of idea in solar is if you're not properly sizing the system, it's either going to be too big or too small, which ends up not being good for the homeowner. So next is too high price per watt. Same thing like in roofing. If you're selling, Oak Ridge shingles for $1,000 a square, that's not good for the homeowner. I think a lot of people do insurance, so they don't really bid it out. They kind of just do whatever insurance is going to pay. But if you're on the retail side, you usually have a price per square that the company sets, or there's some type of parameters in there, so you don't have the guy that just joined yesterday, out knocking doors, ripping homeowners off. So I highly recommend that you have a PPW cap, and all PPW means is price per watt. So just like price per square, solar systems are, let's say a 10 kilowatt system, and if your price per watt was $3, that would make it a $30,000 system. All right, and I'll show that real quick. So 10 kilowatts equals 10,000 watts, just a little bit of metric conversion. So if your price per watt equals $3 per watt, you have 10,000 watts. 10,000 times 3 is a $30,000 solar system, just like price per square. So, if you don't have a price cap, or if the reps can just do whatever they want, this is where you'll start getting some really bad complaints, from homeowners, that really can start hurting your brand potentially. If your sales reps are not selling ethically, with a fair price per watt. And now the price per watt is going to change dramatically from California to Texas to Florida to Massachusetts. So they're just like roofing, some places, 700 a square is fair. Some places that's twice the price of normal. So, with solar, it really depends on region. And so I don't really have the $3 I just threw out there for easy math. I'm not saying anybody should be at, that for their price per watt. All right. Next big mistake that, both reps can make or do is putting panels on the wrong slopes. So we always go, well, I won't say always, majority of the time you go south, west, and some on the east, if they really want it. In some places, depending on your utility plans, it might make sense to go on the west first, like here in Arizona, in a certain SRP territory, which is a type of one of our utility companies. It makes sense to go on the west before the south, just because of how they structure their utility plans post solar. But and everywhere that everybody has said they're at, Texas, North Carolina, Oklahoma, they're doing a dollar for dollar or net metering. So you want to go south, west, and then sometimes the east is okay. Really never want to go in the north. A panel on a north produces at about half the efficiency as a panel on the south. So you're getting half of production for the same price. And so you really, really want to avoid putting panels on the north. It's just not what's good for the homeowner. And again, this is everything I'm saying today is about how to make sure you don't get complaints, 3 months down the road, 6 months down the road. And then, you start getting your Google My Business with tons of bad reviews saying, hey, I got a $200 a month solar system and a $200 a month electricity bill still because, they undersized my systems or they put all the panels on the north or whatever the case may be. So, the check on that is you just, very quickly as part of your internal review process, when that proposal comes across or when that final deal is signed, just look at the proposal, make sure there's no panels on the north. A lot of installers will automatically flag that and won't even allow you to put them on the north. As far as where to put panels, other things to keep in mind, obviously shading. We want to make sure we're not promising a homeowner that, hey, you don't have to cut that tree down. These panels are still going to work just fine. If there's large shading on the south and west side, we shouldn't be putting panels there unless the homeowner is okay cutting a tree down. I've seen that before in the industry where I've gone out for a service call for a roof leak and they have these massive, oak trees and 30 panels on their roof. And I'm like, this is solar power. You've shaded the entire panels are not getting any sun. And so just make sure we're honest with homeowners. You can't keep the trees and have solar, depending on where the trees are shading. All right. Next is inputting the wrong utility plan. So this is going to be especially something you need to watch for in Dallas and really all across Texas and anywhere else that has decentralized electricity. What that means is a lot of places, most places in America, like North Carolina, we were just talking about, has centralized utility, meaning that if you're in Charlotte, you have to use Duke Energy. If you're using Duke Energy, you're using, Duke Energy, plan number 7, and you're going to go into the Duke Energy post-solar plan. Usually most of these utility companies have two or three plans you could choose from on the front end. But once you go solar, you only have one plan called post-solar plan or customer generation plan or anything like that. So, but if you're in Texas, you have 9 different utility companies that they could choose from, sometimes more. And so you want to make sure that what you're putting in when you go into your proposal software, and I'll show you guys an example real quick. Let me pull that up and show you guys what I'm talking about. When you go into the proposal software, it will have an option in most softwares to put in what exactly utility plan they're on now and where they're going to. So 1 second, let me pull this up. The software that I'm going to show you guys here, it's called Open Solar. It's free. It's something that I use for a lot of the demos. There's definitely some better software out there that's a little bit more engaging, acts more like a CRM, but this one's free. So if you're just kind of messing around with it, you want to get your feet wet. This is a great software. Highly recommend it. It's just called Open Solar and it's opensolar.com. All right, let me share my screen real quick. Let's come into here and I'll show you kind of what we're looking at. So let's say here's a project. All right. So when we come into the energy side of things, so this is what I was talking about before. Typically, when you come into creating a solar proposal, you'll have some options of how to put their bill in. And I'll pull up a bill here in a second and show you guys how the bill will present. But you can see you can either put in an annual bill. So let's say they know I paid $3,000 last year in electricity. This is what the utility company told me. Ideally, the best way to put it in is monthly with kilowatt hours. That gives you the true actual electricity they're using, because dollars isn't exact to kilowatt hours, because most utility plans depends on when you use your electricity. From 3 to 6 in the summer, it's more expensive, or from, 9 a.m. or from 5 at night till 9 a.m. in the morning in the winter, it's more expensive because everybody's using heat. Whatever the case may be, we don't want to look at dollars. If we can, we will really always want to look at kilowatt hours, because that is what the solar system's actually going to produce. Okay. But if you look here, this is daily for each month, because that's how his bill was set up. So if I were to change this and say, hey, make this 90 and make that 100 and make this 200, it would look like he's using a lot more electricity. And actually, when I talked to this guy, funny enough, he had two other proposals. And when we looked at those two other proposals, that's what they did. Both of them were trying to sell him a system, because this is a very big home in a very rich neighborhood. They were trying to basically take advantage of him and sell him a system about 30% larger than he needed by manipulating the energy data. And we broke it down. He looked at it. He's like, oh my God, I'm so glad you did that. This is why we're going to move forward with you. Okay. Down here, it'll calculate your annual kilowatt hours as well. And so that's what you can also, get that number from the utility company. Most people can get access their bill online. If not, you can usually just give them a call, and they'll read you these numbers, and they'll say, hey, January used 2,000, March 3,000, blah blah blah. That is the single best way to build a proposal, is to get the numbers straight from the utility company for every single month. The reality is, homeowners are lazy. They're not going to want to do that. They're going to give you a bill that has their last 12 months usage, and you're going to kind of estimate this. And I'll show how to do that as well. But I just wanted to see you guys can kind of see the back end side of this. Okay. And then come down right here. And here's what I was talking about. So this is the utility company. And so if you come in here, let's say you were, in North Carolina, you would say Duke Energy, Carolinas. All right. So you'd want to make sure you pick the right one, because that is going to dictate what they're currently paying and then what they're going to pay afterwards. So you can see there's a bunch in here, but most of these are going to be like commercial and other things like that. So when you pull up an electricity bill, and I'll do that in a second here, I'll show you guys exactly what it looks like. It'll tell you, it'll say, APS time saver choice, or whatever the name of it is. And then you just put that in here, APS, time, and it'll pull it right up. So like, here's your Arizona Public Service, E32, R1, R2. And so look at their bill, and it'll tell you exactly what it is. Okay. So if you don't have the right, current tariff and the right proposed tariff moving forward, that is obviously going to mess up the numbers, because this is what this tariff that the system pulls directly from the utility company's websites. This is what dictates at what rate they're going to buy back electricity, at what rate their new electricity is going to cost, and it's going to dictate their entire bill. So it's very important that you have the right new policy that they're going to move into. Okay. And then just coming into here real quick, I'll show you guys some of the things that can potentially go wrong when you do a proposal. All right, so let me go to this. Why is it lagging? It's because I'm zooming. So if you see when I talk about west facing, so northeast, southwest, your south facing roof is going to be all of these portions right here. This is going to be all your south facing roof. As you can see, he basically has no south facing roof. You really want to avoid putting them in just small little runs, because that drives the cost up. So you see we have a big west facing roof right here, and that's where we put the majority of the panels, with the rest going on his flat roof, because that's what he wanted. All right, so that's kind of to see what that looks like. You just use a proposal software like this, and it drops them right in here. All right. And then typically what happens, so this guy, he's building a secondary casita right now. So he wanted to oversize the system. All right. And so you can see right here, this is a 21 kilowatt system that's going to offset 122% of his electricity. So it's going to do more than what he's using right now, 22% more, because he's adding a casita. And then I also created him another one that was 48 panels. That's going to do 110%. So kind of showing him his two different options. If you guys remember from the previous slide or the previous thing, he was at 32,000 kilowatts is what he used last year, 32,000 kilowatt hours. So this is 35, and then this is 39. Okay. So that's where you get the 122%. or the 110%. All right. Let's see. What app do you recommend what the panels would look like on their roof? Are you talking like from the ground, as opposed to something like this?
No, something just like this that can show where the best parts on the roof are that get the most amount of sun throughout the year.
Yep. So this is what I recommend right here. Open solar, completely free. And what I think I'll do next class is we will kind of do a demo on how to kind of set all this up and get it rolling. But I'll just show you very briefly how simple it is. All right. So I showed you guys first. All you're going to do is enter in their data. He happened to have a bill that had daily consumption. And actually, let me see if I can. Let me pull his bill up real quick so we can just take a look at that. So here's this guy's electricity bill. We come down here. And so here's his usage. So he has average daily electricity use per month. So some bills will show you monthly, some will show you daily. It just depends on how he has it set up. So if you look here, this is where typically what I do with this, if they're not willing to call the homeowner or call the utility company and get the numbers themselves, I just print it off, get a ruler, and then draw your lines across. And so you can see, once you have a ruler, it's easier to see. But if you look here, February is about, 64, right? So you'd put in 64 for February as their daily usage. March is going to be, between 96 and 128. So maybe it's 104. And so that's why ideally they have the numbers from the utility company, because maybe it's 104, maybe it's 106, maybe it's 108. I explained to them, hey, if you don't want to make the call yourself, it is going to be more of an estimate, but we'll still be in the ballpark of, plus or minus 5%. It's not a huge deal. And then you want to really look at outliers. So this is the single best thing to do with the utility bills. Look at outliers and ask them about it, because they will appreciate that. It'll make you look like a true expert. Because I asked him, I said, oh, wow, man, this April, you must have had some family in or what? I saw, a huge jump. He's like, oh, yeah, my 3 kids came into town for a college graduation. How'd you know that? I'm like, well, I looked at your bill and I saw that you had about a 30% jump from last year to this year. You see the grays are 2022. 2023 is black. This is a pretty significant jump, about a 20% jump there. And so I just kind of asked him about it. And, he was like, yep. The other thing I was able to lock in is this is in Arizona. When would you usually use your most heat? June, July, and August, right? Because it's hot as hell and you're paying for air conditioning. So I asked him, I said, sir, you're probably a snowbird, aren't you? You get out of that summer heat. And he's like, yeah. I go back to Illinois as soon as May hits. And you can see that. He still runs the house. He has a housekeeper, so he's still running air conditioning. But for him to have higher in April than July or August, it means that he's not in his home in July or August. And in Arizona, there's tons of people spend 6 months here in the winter, and then like retirees, they spend 6 months back in the Midwest or the Northeast or wherever. So being able to look at someone's electricity bill and ask them about or know about their life will help them really wow, this guy actually knows electricity, actually knows solar. And that's what you can kind of look at. Another thing is if you have a cold winters and you see a huge drop in the winter, you must be on a gas, gas heating, or you must have, wood burning stove or whatever the case may be. You want to kind of, let them know, hey, I looked at your bill and now I know something, because then they'll be like, wow, he actually knows what's going on with electricity and how to build a solar system for me. All right. So you take all this data, you pop it into here like so, and then you double check your tariffs as well. All right. All right. So then when you go into the design phase, let's just say we're going to make a new system. Okay. So we're going to add a new system. Usually if you're going to give a multiple, I like to duplicate it just because it's easier. But so right now we have a 0 kilowatt system with 0% offset, and it's producing 0, 0, 0, right? Okay, let's go see where I want to put some panels. This is what's called a Spanish clay roof. For those that aren't familiar, basically if you step on this, it crumbles. It's super, it's like 1,500 a square. It's like ridiculously priced stuff. And so he doesn't want the majority on the roof as much as possible. Because he has, he paid a ton for this roof. It's, he wants the roof to be shown to his neighbors. So we're going to start with the flat roof. So we're just going to drop some panels here, and it's really simple. You just literally just boop, put them right here. All right. And that's going to give us, it's going to take a little time to load. That gives us a 6-panel system, and that gives me 14% offset, 2.4 kilowatts, and it's going to produce 4,475 kilowatt hours. All right. Well, you're definitely going to need more than that. All right, let's give you another row. All right, give it time to load. And then what I want to show you is how, what the effect north has on it. So we now have a 12-panel system that's producing 27% of his electricity. So that means each panel is doing about 2%, right? 2% and a little bit of change. Because 12 times 2 would be 24%. So that's how efficient these are. Now, if you come start throwing panels on the north side, and how you know it's north facing is north is that way. This is facing to the north. You see how it's facing towards the north? Let's just put 2 panels here. Oh, hold on 1 second. I got to change their I have presets in mine that I should have done the demo on how to do this first. So I'll show you guys how to set your presets up. My presets that I have set here, you can see right here, this is your azimuth and your slope. This assumes south or west facing. So I'll show you guys how to set those up to make it so that when you do your south and west facing roofs, you always get the maximum production out of them. But if you were to put just a north facing roof or a north facing panel, I got to spin it because it's optimizes it for south side. 1 second. Let me do this. Probably won't because of how I have it set up on the. Okay. All right. There you go. You see? So now this is treating it like a oh no, it didn't do it either. Okay. I'm not sure why this isn't working. But I'll show you guys how to set up the presets. And once you have your presets, you don't ever have to mess with your azimuth or your slope. What this is representing as if it's on the north, the south, or the west side. And if you're only put them on the south and the west side, you won't need to mess with the azimuth once they're preset. Okay. But how you'd build the rest of this is you would just keep adding. And you can kind of move them down if you want. So now we're looking at this will update. And see, so now we added those and it went up to 37%. So, one thing you want to keep in mind is obviously we have a bunch of penetrations here. We don't know exactly if we can put stuff there if we haven't done a site visit yet. If you've done a site visit, you'd see what these actually are. But you would just keep adding. You just keep adding your panels, to different parts of the roof. And I would obviously take a little bit more time and, put them the right way and get them in there nice and neat, All right. So, and then, this will just keep updating. The other thing that you'll build out presets is what panels you're actually using. So it has all the panels that exist. But depending on what your installer's using, depending on what you're using, you would say, okay, I'm going to use the REC 500 or 405s. That's what, 123 Solar told me that they're installing. Okay, cool. All right. And then it may update it depending on how good the panel is, or it may, downgrade it. All right. So, and then again, you just keep building this out until you got to whatever the goal is. Most of the time, the goal is going to be 100%. This guy, like I said, he's building another addition, so he wanted to oversize it a little bit. All right. You really don't need to mess with your inverters or anything else here. Other thing that you can preset in here is pricing. So like this is a price per watt for REC, which is the type of panel, price per watt for VSUN, and then you have different like Reimagine, which is my company's name. So we have this pricing is what like my team uses. So they click this and it automatically updates the price. So if you have sales reps, then you would want to put something in there that says, hey, this is how you do it. You just click this and it automatically does it. And then maybe the next pricing is REC discounted price. Like if you guys do price drops, okay, here you're going to lead with 500 a square, but you're allowed to drop down to 450 a square if homeowner bulks at the price, whatever those numbers are. Okay. Other thing that you can do as well, especially for everybody on this call, is you'll want to add in your roof if you're doing a solar roof combination. So you just come right here, you hit enter manually, roof replacement, price adder. Let's say it's a $25,000 roof. Oh. How's it doing that? Let's say it's a $25,500 roof. Yeah. And then you can decide to show it to the customer or not. I always show it to the customer because I don't want them thinking my solar system's, 100 grand when 40 grand of it's their roof. All right. So you hit save, boom. All right. And then you hit save up here. All right. So then we come. So now that's your design. Now we have, a couple different options. Let's say, he plans on never using the house again and he just wants it to sit. Okay, great. He wants a 50% offset and then he's going to build his casita and then he's going to build his casita and get his electric vehicle. All right. And then we're going to come to the online proposal. And all this is all customizable. So you can put your logo, put all your stuff here. One thing to keep in mind with this, you see this little white outline checkered box. You can zoom in when you're building the proposal, like so you can get like really down into fine details of each thing. Once it loads, it'll but whatever's in this white box is what shows on the proposal. So once you're done building the proposal, zoom all the way out. Sometimes it takes some time to load. And since I'm broadcasting, it takes even more time. And try to get the bulk of the home into that white box. Okay, so that way when you hit save, now you come over here to your online proposal. And there's their home. Depending on where you're at, sometimes the Google 3D view is nice. In higher end neighborhoods and rural areas, for some reason, I think it's because they have like gate guards and stuff. Google has never driven through these places. So the 3D model looks absolutely terrible. I'll show you what it looks like on this home. And then also like in rural areas, it looks bad. But in normal neighborhoods, it looks good. And you can kind of see, let me go back to the design and add the 3D view. So you see how like all this is just melting? That's because Google has never driven and actually took pictures. But on a normal proposal, this will all be 3D instead of 2D like this. And they can actually kind of see what it will look like on the home as well. All right. This one, the 3D looks like trash. And so I just deleted it. And I don't want them to see it because it makes it, you can see like how it cuts off half the panels and like just his whole property looks like it's, just melting into the abyss. It just doesn't look professional. So I only did 2D on this one. All right. Come back to the online. I prefer the online proposal and I'll show you why. You can do a PDF proposal and email it, but there's a much better way to do that. Because now what we have, and you can rename these. so that you know how to click through them. You see how this one's 25 panels. This one was solar with 54 panels, and then you can click through them. So this is how we're looking at the proposal. We got a 21 kilowatt system, 22 kilowatt, 122% offset. And it's going to produce 39,000, almost 40,000 in kilowatt hours. Because remember, he used 32,000 last year. So this is where, 40,000 versus 32,000, that's an extra 22% of electricity. All right. Now you can easily click, boom. See, I removed some panels. You can see I had more panels right here in this area. I click here, remove those panels, dropped us from 40,000 to 35,000, from 122 to 110, and to a new kilowatt size of 19.44. And then I can click right here and give him this little baby deal if he wanted that as well. All right. That's why I like to do it this way. Really simple. Okay. Other thing, you have your payment options. Depending on what you're using, this is customizable as well. So you can either do cash, or if you're going to do financing, and then when you click financing, it'll add in the dealer fee and a monthly payment. Okay. Other cool thing I like about this is I like to upload my actual panel I'm using, because when I send this to a homeowner reviewing it together, they can click this button and it's going to pull up a spec sheet for anything they may want to know about the panel. Myself. Oh, hold on. All right. You go to details here. You're going to get a little bit more, like less technical, but like just more about what is REC, why should we choose REC, 10% more power, XYZ. And they even have a little video here that you can do as well. That will just be like, drink water from the lake and go solar, or whatever. But these are customizable things that you can put in there. It makes it more dynamic, and it's especially powerful. This guy's a very particular guy. He's like, he's trying to grill me as soon as I see the proposal. He's like, oh, I don't see anything about the specs. And I'm like, oh, well, why don't you come right here and click specs? He's like, all right, that was sharp. I like that. Okay. And like, you could literally tell he was like trying to catch me. And then I showed him this, and he was just like, all right, you have your bases covered. Okay. That's the top portion. Next comes down into your system performance. And like I said, if you change this, your system performance changes all in real time. All right. So this gray line behind here is your consumption. This is what he's using currently. And remember, I said April was his biggest month. So you can see April is his biggest month. And this is his generation. This is what he would be producing with the new proposal. So if we make it smaller, he's producing less. If we cut in half, his production cuts in half. All right. Pretty simple. And this is what I like to explain to homeowners. Hey, look, this is computers. This is, we put the data in there. This uses, satellite imagery, as well as, NOAA data, which is the National Atmospheric Association. It's like a sister company or sister branch of NASA. They measure how much sun hits every location in the world. And so that's what this pulls from. That then, will tell you exactly this panel is going to produce this because you're in Arizona, because, in January we get less sun than in June, et cetera, et cetera. And what's interesting, one thing to keep in mind, electronics work worse when it's hot. So while we have the longest days in July and August, look where we have the best production, actually in May and June. Why? Because in July and August, it's so hot, it's 120 degrees, that the panels actually they work worse. Just like any electronics, when you have higher heat, you lose more electricity in production. It just doesn't produce as well. So that's just something, a little interesting fact. Sometimes homeowners will ask that, why is your June so much higher than your August? It's because August is super, super hot. Similarly, if you're in Wisconsin or, North Carolina, you're going to have, maybe in October, it starts seeing a big drop, because that's when winter hits, as opposed to here, winter doesn't hit till November or whatever the case may be. All right. Then here's your breakdown, total system price. So like if you threw in a roof there, it would show your roof replacement here as well. Your purchase price, etc. If you have it listed as an interest rate, it's then gonna tell you what your loan payment will be before tax credits and then after tax credits. Okay. Because remember how solar works. Most of the lenders do it all the same way. They are going to give you a loan. And it's going to start off at, let's say, $400 a month. And then they're going to, with the assumption that you're going to take this tax credit, your federal tax credit, and send it in to the lender. So the government's going to give you a tax credit of $23,000. You're going to take that tax credit and pay it towards the system. If you do that, this loan payment stays fixed at $397. If you take this money and do not send it in, then the loan re-amortizes and your new payment's $588. Any questions on that part? Awesome. So this would say, hey, Mr. Homeowner, you're $397. If you take your tax credits and apply it to the system, your payment will stay at $397. If you take your tax credits and you go to Vegas and you bet it all on black, good luck, but your payments are now going to be $588. All right. And then it has a little bit of information on environmental stuff. And then you can put your own company information here. This is one that I helped build out for a partner called Green Muscle. And then you have all your solar panels, your micro inverters in here, installation, anything else you want to put in here that's specific to you. All right. Maybe talking about, it'd be really great for you guys. The one big thing you'd want to add here is the difference for having a roofer. A roofing company be the final person to inspect your roof. Because I'm a roofer, I understand how this should be installed. I understand how to make sure the solar isn't leaking afterwards. So I will come back out and do my own inspection and inspect that. That would be a huge value out of why they should buy from a roofer instead of a solar sales rep. And because you're going to do the roof and solar together. And then the other cool thing I really like about this software is when you send it to the customer, you have a live link. So you just hit copy link. Just copy this link and I'm going to drop it in the chat. Boom. You can text it to a homeowner, pull it up on your phone, pull it up on your computer, whatever. And the reason I prefer this is if you send it right now and you go back and do a double check and you're like, you can come in real quick and change something, save it, and that's a live link. So, or you can, when you're presenting to the homeowner, they'll have the same link as you. All right, Mr. Homeowner, first thing we're going to want to talk about is that 54 panel system. All right, so it's going to be this, this, and this, blah, 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 blah. All right, that's going to be, $73,000. Now, Mr. Homeowner, you're also considering that 48 panel system. So what I want you to do is go ahead and click that right here. Now, if you're sitting there at the kitchen table with them, you just click it yourself. But we do a lot of virtual sales in my business. So a lot of times I've sent this link, they're looking at their computer, we're just on the phone. So I'll say, go ahead and click that 48 panel system for me. Awesome. You see how that drops from 73,000 to 67,000? Okay, great. If you really are moving out of your home and never coming back, go ahead and hit that 25 panel system. All right, awesome. We're looking at $55,000 for you. And that way you can just kind of walk them through really quickly instead of sending them, if you do a PDF proposal, you have to download 3 different proposals. And then, okay, well, I know I said cash, but I talked to the wife and she said, we don't have the cash. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and just look at your payment options. Let's switch to right here. All right, so now we're looking at $397 a month or $295 a month or $358 a month. And then they're able to sign this as well from their end also. There's an accept button on there. So again, I think it's far superior. And you guys can see over here, you have customized. You can edit the proposal template. You can add in all your different options that you want have on here. Like you can create different proposals for different people, or different situations. Insurance versus retail, whatever the case may be. All of this is fully customizable and very, very, very like just self-explanatory. It's like, hey, click here, learn how to customize views, and you click customize view, and wow, you can add a Google 3D view if you wanted. It's literally just click and kind of play. And best part is it's all free. Opensolar.com. It's a great way to get your feet wet and start messing around with it. I will say paid proposal software is going to be a little bit faster, a little bit fancier, maybe have some more analytics and things like that. But there's no issue running your entire solar sales organization through Open Solar. My company, we do probably about, I don't know, maybe about 100 to 150 kilowatts a month, and we're ramping up to more than that, and we still use Open Solar. And we have no issues with it. It's I think it's a solid system. All righty. Any questions on anything we've covered so far? All right. So last thing I just want to talk about is how to prevent all of this, or how to protect your business from potential mistakes. The simplest way, and what I do with all of the deals I've ever signed in solar, is a closeout call or a welcome call, however you want to think about it. But just calling that homeowner and just, whether it's somebody internal, yourself, depending on the size of your company, whatever the case may be, just call them and just go over the proposal. Hey, Mr. Homeowner, you understand that you are getting whatever this is, a 48 panel system. Yep, it's gonna do 110% offset. That's kind of abnormal. Why are we going with more than 100? Oh, I'm building a casita. Oh, okay, sounds great. Cool. All right, and then you opted for the 20-year 699, and that's going to be $358 a month to start. And then you understand that you have 18 months to take your tax credit and then put that back into the loan. If you don't, that jumps to 531. That was explained to you, right? Yes. Okay, awesome. And that is the final way, and probably the biggest thing that happens in the solar industry is the tax credit. I cannot stress enough, please make sure homeowners are consulting a CPA, or they understand that they're paying significant taxes. If they are on Social Security, if they are on, where they're making $20,000 a month, or sorry, $20,000 a year, they do not have the ability to take advantage of this tax credit. Okay. And so if they think they're going to be paying $358 and they don't get any of this tax credit money and they have to pay $531, you are going to get a negative review. They're going to be furious, as you can imagine. And then your company has ripped somebody off. Maybe with, either it's ignorance or malice, but it's your responsibility to make sure that they understand what they are getting into, and understand that this is a tax credit. You have to have paid taxes in order to take advantage of a tax credit. How a tax credit works is they take money from us every single month, right? Whenever you guys get paid, you get paid, $5,000, and only 3,000 or 4,000 shows up into your bank account, right? Because 2,000 was taken by the federal government. At the end of the year, when you file your taxes, they say, okay, Cody, we took $40,000 from you. Sorry, I should have only taken $30,000. Here goes a $10,000 rebate check. But they still kept $30,000 of my money, right? I paid $30,000 in taxes. Now, if I had a $22,000 tax credit, they would have gone, oh, wow, Cody, I took $40,000 from you. I should have only taken 30. Oh, I see this $22,000 tax credit. Sorry, I should have only taken 8,000. And they will refund the 22,000 plus whatever I normally would have got anyways. Now, alternatively, if you're the type of person who has to usually pay at the end of the year, they would say, hey, Cody, I took 40,000 from you. You actually owe me 50,000. Give me my $10,000. If I had a $20,000 tax credit, they would say, hey, Cody, you owe me $10,000. Oh, actually, I see this tax credit. So you have a $20,000 tax credit. You don't owe me the $10,000, and I actually owe you $10,000. So I would only get a check for $10,000, right? But I got $20,000 in tax savings because I would have owed the government 10 grand. So you're going to get a $20,000 tax benefit, but you only can take advantage of that if you paid $20,000 in taxes last year, or if you owe money. Now, one caveat with that is that it is recapturable over 5 years. So let's say I have a $20,000 tax credit and I only pay $5,000 in taxes every year. I would get $5,000 back this year, $5,000 back next year, $5,000 back the third year, and then $5,000 back the fourth year. Same idea if they're retired and they say, hey, I didn't incur any taxes this year, but next year I'm selling, 3 properties and I'm going to pay $100,000 in taxes, but I want to get solar today. Okay, no problem. You could do that. You would just recapture your tax credit the next year. You have 5 years to recapture it, and it doesn't matter how you go about that. All right, so just a quick recap of the 7 ways mistakes can either be bad for homeowners, or potentially reps can try to take advantage of homeowners. 1, oversize the system. 2, undersize the system. 3, too high of a price per watt. 4, panels on the wrong slope. 5, inputting the wrong utility rate, either pre-solar or post-solar. 6 is the tax credit. And then number 7, final one, is telling a homeowner that their electric bill will be 0. Very, 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 I don't know if anywhere in the country where when you go solar, your electric bill becomes 0. It usually becomes somewhere between $10 and $30. They still will have connection fees. So it's just important to tell them. Nobody really cares about $10 a month. But if I tell you I'm going to get your bill to 0 and your bill's $15, you might be mad. If I can say I'm going to virtually eliminate it, or I'm going to get it as low as possible, but hey, the utility company's always going to get some money. They're going to charge you somewhere between $10 to $20 a month, but we're going to take care of the rest. Okay, no problem. But do not promise that their bill is going to go to 0, because I don't know anywhere where their bill will actually go to 0. It's usually going to still have a $10, $15, some type of connection fee that won't actually ever bring it 100% to 0. And it's all about expectations in sales and in life. If I tell you I'm going to give you $20 for free, and I show up and I give you $10 for free, you're still going to be kind of mad, even though you got $10 for free. You're like, well, you told me you're going to give me 20. Same idea in this. Let's not overpromise and just, tell them, hey, you're going to have a small electricity bill, $10 to $20. No big deal. All righty. Any questions for me? We got about 2 minutes left. Any questions on anything we went over today? Awesome. All right, guys. Oh, did you have something?
No, I was saying not yet.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, I appreciate you guys joining in today. I've done probably about 8 to 9 of these. If you guys want to look at some older ones, I did kind of Solar 101 basics in the beginning. I will circle back to do those, a Q&A of Solar 101. Not next time. Next time is going to be on building out your solar proposal software and things to look for in a solar presentation. And then I'll circle back and do a Solar 101 Q&A for any questions you guys may have. But that's all I got for today. If you guys need anything else, feel free to drop it into the Circle social media side, and I'll get some lessons planned out. Appreciate everybody's time. Talk to you guys later.